Welcome, my dear Fleshies. Today's tale is one that is sure to make your skin crawl and your timbers shiver. Ever wonder what happens when a big shot tries to branch out into sacred territory? Or when the local roots run deeper than ever could have been imagined? Get ready for Elders, a story where the forest isn't just a pretty backdrop, and some guardians take their jobs very seriously. It's going to be a wild ride, so hold on to your hats, and maybe your souls. And now, Elders. Our CEO, Paul Jackson, has a feeling that something special is near the town of Grand Wood. He's determined to own the property, but every time it comes up, there are protesters who don't want the business to own the land. The environmentalists know what will happen when Paul's company gets a hold of the forest. On top of the environmentalists not wanting them to buy the property, one of the local tribes sent representatives to the office of the CEO, telling him that the guardians of the forest will not stand by and allow them to desecrate the land. Should they move forward with their plans, their defenders will chase them off the land. They will not be allowed to ruin the land. The words of the tribe fell on closed ears. Paul's plans, calling for cutting down a large portion of the forest to build a resort and casino. In his mind, the sacred place and its guardians can just simply be gone. He doesn't understand how a bunch of trees can be saved. He doesn't understand how a bunch of trees can be sacred. They have chopped down forest hundreds of times before, and nothing has ever happened. The difference is that yes, it has happened multiple times before, but now the guardians are angry. And there is no telling what will happen. People like Paul have been warned time and time again, and their warnings have always fallen on deaf ears. Their ears refused to listen then, and they refuse to listen now. Today, it will be his company and their contractors who will be made to deal with the decisions made. The construction crew is supposed to drop off equipment so that the work can start tomorrow on clearing the land. The crew drop off bulldozers, chainsaws, and other tools to the location. If the guardians have anything to do with it, there will be some very unhappy people in the morning. One man was assigned to watch over the equipment and the land. He is in for one heck of a night. From over 60 miles away in his home, the medicine man of the tribe begins to pray and chant. As he does, an apparition of another medicine man also appears. The medicine man, as he does, an apparition of another medicine man also appears not far from where the man is sleeping. At first, the ghost is quiet, but then he begins to sing to the guardians, and as he does, the phantom drums begin to play as well. The man wakes up, and his first instinct is to chase the man off. But he soon realizes that the man sitting before him is not alive. He calls his supervisor and tells him what he is seeing, and he gets told to chase the man off. Instead of chasing him off, he takes a picture of the being and sends it to his supervisor and lets it slip that he just wants to leave. But his boss says, "Stay." But he still would take off and run, given a chance. When the ghostly figure stopped his song and the drums had stopped playing, the trees began to dance. 4 large beings emerged from the forest. They approached the 2 bulldozers, and then using their beastly strength, one of the vehicles were toppled over, followed by the second one. He got out of the truck and fired a warning shot over their heads. From somewhere within the forest, a shower of rocks began to descend upon him. Taking shelter in the truck didn't halt the attack either. His truck started to get pelted with rocks and branches. And the tools that were dropped off, well, they ended up in the river. The entire area has been laid to waste. The whole time, the ghostly man stayed completely motionless. What happened next scared the man to death. A tree was thrown through the passenger side of the truck. Luckily, he survived. For another hour, the rocks started pelting the truck. And when the rocks quit hitting the truck, the night of terror wasn't over. From the forest, there were noises that sounded like some form of ape were calling. He called his supervisor and told him about what had happened, but he was told to quit lying. From nowhere, a face appeared in the window of his truck. It was more ape-like than human. The creature sniffed the window, and then he heard, "You were warned. We will defend our land. Tell your people this land is sacred, or next time there will be blood upon the land." The creature hit, which left a dent in the truck. Still, the ghostly man sat there, apparently unfazed by the actions of the creature. Now that the worker thought about it, the ghostly shaman's chanting led to the attacks of the beast. He was afraid of what was to come should his bosses decide to push against the warning. In the morning, the CEO received a phone call from the chief, telling him that their shaman saw the destruction done by the guardians. He retold everything that had happened at the location. The CEO just laughed over the phone. Paul told him that this was all just a hoax, and that he would not be scared off the land. Later that morning, when he arrived at the site and surveyed the destruction, he fired the man who had been guarding the land. He then called the chief and told him that his lawyers would eat the chief and his people alive. His threat was answered with a war cry, and then the chief told Paul what his shaman had heard on the wind. They shouldn't attempt to move forward with their plans, or blood will be spilled. The businessman scoffed at the man's words. He's not going to be scared away by silly threats. The chief then said that a life would be taken if I push any further into the land. Again, he said hogwash and ended the call. That's okay. He'll find out if the words are garbage or not. First, he orders a cleanup of the site, and then he'll march forward with his plans. No silly guardians are going to do anything to stop him. He stayed for the entire cleanup. Now he's watching as the new equipment arrives. He is personally going to guard the land tonight that he claims to own. What he doesn't know is that he's being watched by the same beings who watched his last staging area. They aren't happy to see his return, nor are they happy to see the equipment's back. He's gonna find out that the threats made by the shaman aren't really threats, that they are simply promises. Not even a half hour after everyone had left, the ghostly shaman appeared in the same spot as he did the night before. The CEO tried to make him leave, but it did no good. Soon, Paul tried to make him leave, but again, it did no good. Soon, the shaman started his song and chant, just like he did the night before. Still, the CEO was stubborn. He was not buying into the show in front of him. Soon, the same ape-like chatter that was heard last night appeared again. And soon the trees started to shake and sway. "Tell your crew they can stop the theatrics," he told the shaman outside his truck. And then he took his fire stick and aimed it at the trees. Pulling the trigger, a projectile flew through the air and struck one of the guardians. A primate's yelp was heard, and it made the man smile. "Sounds like my message was heard, loud and clear." The response he got back was not what he was expecting. A rain of rocks came down upon him. At first they were small, but then they started throwing larger stones. Stones that would leave bruises, or worse, were flying through the air. Branches were now being thrown. The human fired another projectile into the trees, but nothing happened. However, the ghostly shaman started to speak in his native tongue. 10 ghostly braves appeared in front of Paul. They pulled back their bows and released them. Arrows flew through the air and hit their mark. Paul was hit in the head. I think Paul thought that the arrows would be ghostly, and yet they were not. What struck him was an actual arrow, not one that a ghost would have fired, but a very authentic one. It did its job. When the medical examiner removed the arrow, they found one not with a metal arrowhead, but with a flint arrowhead. With him out of the way, the company changed its plans for the land and gave it up. Everything was fine, and the land was returned to the wild. The guardians returned to the mountains, and life overall is good. The land that is held sacred is no longer being desecrated. It's free of the threat of destruction. This one part of the world has returned to peace. Its beauty, for the meanwhile, will stay as is, and its beauty will return in whole eventually. The creatures who attacked the worker earlier are fine. The end. Well, Fleshies, that's where we leave our tale of elders. Paul Jackson certainly learned that you can't just branch out into sacred territory without expecting some serious root problems. And speaking of unexpected disappearances, if you're wondering where Nature Guy X46 has treated himself, let's just say that currently he's having some unforeseen circumstances of getting too close to those guardians. We should probably thank him for cultivating such a wonderfully spooky story, written in a way that truly grows on you. Until next time, remember, pleasant nightmares, Fleshies! Goodbye.